Happy Tuesday. It's January 24th, Just Baseball Show. Jack, Peter, we've got things that surprised us from the 2022 season. We're almost done talking about 2022. We're going to start talking about 2023 here in just a matter of days, honestly. I think next week is when we're launching into the preview stuff. But we went on a little dive and we found some things that caught our attention that we didn't really realize in real time during the 2022 season. So we're going to get into that. But first, Peter Apple, Steve Cohen's really rich. How rich is he?
He is richer than I think anyone, including myself, can really comprehend. So the New York Post, they put out an article about Steve Cohen and his hedge fund. And that hedge fund, let me get the name for you real quick. That hedge fund is named Point72. And Steve Cohen is worth about 13 billion. Obviously, net worth provided by Google is never even close to the actual amount these guys are worth. But the Google net worth of Steve Cohen is about $13 billion. And from his hedge fund, he made last year $2.4 billion for his investors. An MLB team's franchise value. So the Cowboys are worth $6 billion. The Yankees are worth $5 billion. Everybody cares about those teams. But the majority of MLB teams aren't even close to that. For example, the Phillies are the 8th highest franchise value among major league teams. They're worth $2.3 billion. 23 teams in Major League Baseball are worth less than what Steve Cohen made for his investors in 2022. Steve Cohen has made about $1.7 billion from capital gains from his hedge fund. That's worth more than 15 teams' franchise value. He is so much richer than everybody else, like combined.
I'm not going to pretend like I know business and monetary values and things like that. Like, I don't know how much of each of those numbers is going into Steve Cohen's pockets. But what I will tell you is when we're talking about those large numbers, I have to assume that he's making more than $50,000 a year. I have to.
I think that's fair. Also, just pointing back to the fact that we aren't talking about 2022, 2023, completely switching subjects again. You guys just did most impactful rookies about 2023. We're kind of switching back and forth.
Yeah, but I'm ready to get into 23 in earnest. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of saying it's January 24th. I don't really need to go back and look at what happened in September 2022 anymore. You know what I mean?
I think that's fair. Because we were thinking, what should we do for this episode? Should we do pre-1900s baseball wacky stats, or should we cover the past season? Because there still is some things that we haven't covered, even though we're podcasting 4 days a week. While other podcasts, and I'll continue to say this, only do it once or twice. Thank you guys for listening. We're trying to get you.
Yeah, you're all about throwing digs at the competition, man.
Because I pride myself on how much we grind and how much we love to talk about baseball. I think it sets us apart from other baseball podcasts.
You would be great in local politics because you shit on other people.
Should I, you know what? Is it worse for my co-host to shit on me, or for me to, and then I get to respond? Or is it worse that I shit on people who don't get to respond in this light?
I shit on you, you shit on me. We're all one big happy family.
Fair? I would agree that I've never shit on either you or Arb. I'm very nice. It's incredible how nice I am.
You're so humble too.
It's incredible how humble I am.
Yeah. So I was thinking no to the pre-1900 stuff. We'll mix in one or two here or there. Like as it goes on, we have to, but we can't devote a podcast because as the old turtle in Kung Fu Panda said, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And that's why you are starting with the first thing that surprised you in 2022.
Oh, what an entrance. Okay. The first thing that surprised me in 2022. So Aaron Judge led everyone in hard hit rate, barrel rate. He crushed baseballs, which led to 62 home runs. It led to a 207 WRC plus. But there were 3 hitters in Major League Baseball who actually hit the ball 95 miles an hour or above more times than Aaron Judge? I'll give you a guess on those three. Two of them are Blue Jays.
So Jordan is one of them.
He is not one of them.
Stanton is one of them.
He is not one of them.
Wow. Vladdy
is one of them.
Bichette?
Bo Bichette. So the answer to this question is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and Jose Abreu all hit more balls over 95 miles an hour than Aaron Judge. It's kind of wacky.
Abreu and Bichette are the wacky ones. Like, I get Vladdy because Vladdy's a menacing human. I was thinking Yordan Alvarez, because I know that he had an average exit velocity of 95 miles an hour.
Exactly. But these guys hit more balls over 95 miles an hour than those guys.
Interesting.
Okay.
Good to know. All right. My first one. There was only one team in the top 11 in team K rate that was a postseason team. So the teams that struck out the most, right? Like the Angels struck out more than any other offense in Major League Baseball. Of the top 11, the only one that made the postseason was number 3, and it was the Atlanta Braves. The Braves had the third highest team K rate in all of Major League Baseball. Only one guy with over 30 plate appearances had a K rate under 21%, and that was Ozzie Albies, who was under 300 plate appearances. Like, he didn't play the whole season. So every guy that was running out consistently for the Atlanta Braves last year was striking out north of 20% of the time, which I found fascinating. Like, there was only one team with swing and miss concerns that made the postseason, and they were the reigning World Series champion and one of the best teams in baseball.
It's funny that they were a team that when they put bat on ball, they did so much damage, but there was a lot of strikeout in their game. We saw that firsthand in the playoffs. I mean, what kind of did them in? It was when you get to playoff baseball, you got to put guys on base and got to put bat on ball, and they weren't doing that, and they ended up losing, and it was a far cry away from what they were doing in 2021.
It was so weird, man. And like, you think each individual, okay, Matt Olson, he's probably going to strike out a lot. Dansby Swanson, he's a power hitting shortstop. He's probably going to strike out a lot. Acuna, strikeout isn't the first thing that comes to mind, but he did punch out a good bit. And then all the other pieces, like Austin Riley, he's not egregious with the swing and miss, but he's a power guy. He's going to swing and miss. Michael Harris doesn't walk. He chases a lot of pitches.
Marcelo
he gets
Ozuna
good contact
sucks.
on a lot of pitches.
Marcelo Ozuna
like full-blown sucks. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He full-blown stinks.
He sucks. Hate him.
But like d'Arnaud swung and missed a lot. William Contreras swung and missed a lot for them during the regular season. So, yeah, I mean, the Atlanta Braves were a high K rate team, and they were the only team in the bottom third of Major League Baseball in strikeout rate that was a postseason team. So, spoiler alert, if your team puts balls in play, you've got a better chance at being good than the teams that don't put ball in play.
Spoiler alert. Speaking about strikeouts, the Pirates were in their 3 true outcome era last season compared to the season in 2021. They had the biggest change both in strikeouts and home runs. They struck out 169 more times than they did last year, which is the biggest gap in the league. But they also hit 34 more home runs as a team than last year, which was also the most in the league. So the Pirates, they didn't walk. The walks weren't in there. So when I said entering their 3 true outcome, it's, that was more of a lead up. But there's no debate. The Pirates of 2021 didn't strike out nearly as much as they did last year. But at the same time, the power wasn't the same. Like, even on the Yankees, a team that finished second to the Pirates in most home runs gained from the previous year, they had Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs. But the Pirates didn't have a player like that. Every single player had a power increase, but at the same time, K'd way more. Like, the Angels finished second in strikeout rate last year. Pirates finished second. They don't normally do that. I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. But what I will say is, they really didn't have a good catcher at any point during the year. I love Jason DeLay, but DeLay is like not a bat that's going to constantly put the ball in play. Roberto Perez probably would have hedged that a little bit. But think about a guy like Jack Sawinski, who I think got close to the Pirate rookie home run record. Sawinski is homers and strikeouts. That's what he is. Oneil Cruz, at the end of the year, he was homers and a good bit of striking out, right? I mean, with O'Neill, the strikeout rate is not as high as I think many would expect it to be. But obviously, when you have that kind of swing profile and you hit the ball that hard, you're going to swing and miss a bit. So I think it was just a personnel thing. Like the personnel looked different last year for the Pirates than it did in 2021. And it's going to look, even more different this year. And the strikeout numbers might go up. I for sure think the home run numbers are going to go up because you get a full year of Oneil Cruz, who is now acclimated to Major League Baseball. You add Carlos Santana to the fold. You add G-Man Choi to the fold. And we'll see what happens on the prospect front. So I think that is something that was a direct correlation to the guys that were on the field for them that were not on the field in 2021.
That's what I wanted to ask you too. Obviously, as the voice of the Indianapolis Indians and the Pirates organization doing another season, can't wait for that. I am curious, did you hear any rumblings of organizational philosophy changes, anything like that? Because I have another one that might just be a complete coincidence, and that's why I wanted to talk it out with the Colorado Rockies. I was curious if they bought into, what, we need to hit the ball in the air more as a team, and what that's going to lead to is more strikeouts. We've seen teams do this before, and I just found it so fascinating that they were both the top of changes in strikeouts and home runs. Not like, oh, they're the top 5 and the top 7 or anything. No, number 1 and number 1. Do you think it had to do with like 80% personnel, 20% organizational changes, or do you think it was just a complete coincidence?
Yeah, I mean, like probably. I don't know. I'm pulling up the home run leaders for the Pirates this past year and K rate. So Brian Reynolds, 27 nukes, a 23% K rate. But Jack Sawinski, 19 homers, a 31% K rate. Oneil Cruz, 17 homers, a 35% K rate. Michael Chavis, 14 and a 30% K rate. Daniel Vogelbach, Rodolfo Castro, they were all in like the 25 to 30% range in strikeout rate. And they're all right around, 15 to 20 homers. So I think it was just like who you're running out there, right? And Chavis didn't come up in the Pirates organization. Vogelbach didn't come up in the Pirates organization. Sawinski, that was his game when he was a Padre farmhand. Oneil Cruz, this has always been his game. He's going to swing as hard as he possibly can, and he's going to hit the ball 580 feet at 145 miles an hour. So, I mean, like, that's just who they are. I don't think it was anything organizational because there are a lot of guys that are bat to ball oriented. Like their best hitter in the minor leagues right now, Endy Rodriguez, he might be a 10% K rate guy this year. Like that's where they hang their hats. So yeah, I think honestly less 80-20 and more so like 95-5 personnel.
I'm just
trying
to
the last time I used 95-5.
I was about to make a point. I'm glad you brought it up. I in my humbleness, decided not to. Props to me. Props to me.
I love how humble you are.
I agree. I love how humble I am too. Your next one.
All right, my next one. So it's not surprising that the Miami Marlins threw more changeups in baseball last year than like any other pitching staff in baseball, right? They were 19% changeups as a team. And that is an organizational approach, right? They developed those high-speed changeups, and Sandy's great with it. Edward Cabrera is great with it. Trevor Rogers is great with it. Feels like everybody develops a changeup when they hop into the Marlins organization. Maybe that's Mel Stottlemyre Jr. Maybe that's what the farm is preaching. There were two teams that were really, really good on the hill that threw next to no changeups in baseball. Two of the top 3 in terms of least changeup usage were the Houston Astros and the Cleveland Guardians. They both sat in the top 6 in curveball usage, and Houston was in the top 6 in fastball usage. So those two teams, and I don't know if it's just people, but like they didn't throw changeups. Like Christian Javier didn't throw changeups. Justin Verlander hardly threw changeups. I mean, Luis Garcia hardly threw changeups. And then you go to Cleveland, Bieber didn't really throw changeups. Tristan McKenzie didn't really throw changeups. Like nobody that's throwing a ton of innings for them are changeup guys. And I find that interesting because those are two teams that have thrived getting away from the great equalizer. And the changeup, while it is lauded when pitchers are developing, the best organizationally aren't necessarily preaching changeup.
I do think it's interesting because, like, you know what you're good at, right? Mel Stoudemire Jr. or the Marlins organization, they say, well, we have
good at changeup.
We have a changeup that we think could help you develop one of the better changeups. The Astros and who was it? The Dodgers? Who was that other team you mentioned?
The Guardians.
The Guardians. They probably have, well, we have a way of manipulating your slider to make it that much better. I'm curious if it more has to do with that. Like, that also could just be organizationally, the Marlins feel that they can help you with your slider, but the best way to make you a better pitcher from what we've seen is the changeup, and the same thing with the Astros and the Guardians. But which one is better? I mean, I would almost say that it's as impressive what the Marlins are doing, considering that the Guardians and the Astros, I feel like they have better technology and they have, a better front office and more data.
I promise you this. The Marlins and the Guardians have the same tech. It's just who's using it more. I guarantee you.
I don't even know. I don't even know about that. But I'll get into my next one. That is a cool one. Speaking about that, on the same page, the Rockies threw 1,414 more fastballs as a staff, led Major League Baseball in the difference between 2021 and 2022. They finished with the worst team ERA in Major League Baseball at 5.08. Last year, they threw a lot less fastballs, but finished sixth to last with a 4.83 ERA. They had the highest jump as a staff in hard hit rate, also by double the amount of second place. And if we remember, 2021 was the year of the juice ball. A lot of these guys had great offensive years, so you saw plenty of staffs with 5 ERAs. But this year, the Rockies were definitely the worst pitching staff, and they were one of the few teams that got worse when 2022 was more the year of the pitcher. I found that very interesting that at Coors Field, you want to throw more four seams. So they learned that. They implemented that, and they got worse.
They want to throw fewer four seams because they don't want guys to lift it, right?
No, they want to throw more fastballs because there's specific pitches that don't work as well in Coors Field. Like German Marquez, he always worked with the four seam and the slider. I think it's like change-ups, curveballs, they get more affected by altitude, while the fastballs and the sliders are less affected by altitude. So they said, all right, we know that now. Let's throw more fastballs. They got worse.
Yeah, I was looking at like who the real fastball guys are for them.
You don't think that's hilarious? They tried to learn from it and it backfired.
It is really weird. This is so odd. Like Jose Urena was 60% fastball. Senzatella was 60% fastball. Daniel Bard 55%. German Marquez 55%. Kyle Freeland 45%. Chad Kuhl 45%. Notice Chad Kuhl and Kyle Freeland were like the two that were kind of sort of solid, and they were under 50% with it. And German Marquez and Jose Urena were the one just getting their shit kicked in every fifth day. And I mean, they were 55 to 60%. So German Marquez, I specifically went to his player page to see if the percentage jumped a little bit, and it jumped like 2%. So, really not noticeable. But he went up half a run in ERA. Like, he was brutal this year. And I was just curious, like, hey, maybe whenever he was throwing the four-seam fastball, it was just getting hit to the moon. And I think the answer was yes, and he still threw it 55% of the time.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just like, yeah, it's getting hit, but I don't have any other pitches. I just got to go out there and battle.
Yeah, shit, man. Okay, so speaking of that takes me to my third one. If you don't think there's crossover between walking guys and letting up home runs, let me point you to this. Top 10 in walks per nine, top 10 in homers per nine. How many guys do you think fell into both categories? Top 10.
Well, the way you said it, it's going to be high. I'm going to say okay, so it's 4.
It's 4. That's a lot.
That is a lot. I was almost going to over exaggerate and say 6 or 7, but you wouldn't guess that. Even 4.
Usually you wouldn't guess that. And in a couple of other stats like that. Hey, if you're good, you're good. Chances are, there's going to be a crossover like 4 guys in the top 10 in ERA and FIP, right? Because they'll just point to guys being good pitchers. But walks per 9 and homers per 9, there is a direct correlation here. When you walk guys, you have runners on base. When you have runners on base and you are dealing with command issues, you feel the need to bunker down and throw strikes. What's the easiest pitch to throw a strike with? A fastball. When you are lacking confidence, where are you going to put a fastball? Down the dick. What are major league hitters going to do to down the dick fastballs? They're going to send them into the seats. So there's 4 guys that are in the top 10 in both walks per 9 and homers per 9 this year. Charlie Morton, who had a 4.3 ERA, his worst year in quite some time. Nick Pivetta, who had a 4.56 ERA, worst year in quite some time, although Pivetta's never really figured it out.
Yeah, that's
Herman Marquez.
That's one of his
right.
Yeah.
Herman Marquez, who again we just talked about,
there
just
we go.
getting blown into oblivion. And then my king Robbie Ray, who had a 3.7 ERA and had as bad of a regression from a Cy Young season as we've ever seen. So these are guys that are forcing themselves into shitty situations, pressing to get out of them, and then allowing nukes.
I like not only do the numbers reflect it, but just it's very simple on the baseball field. And you broke it down beautifully,
it's point
right?
A to point B thinking, right?
Yeah.
It's you walk guys, you got to throw strikes. What do major league hitters do to strikes?
Yeah, like if you're throwing that slider like a lot of these guys do, or they're breaking ball and it's just in the dirt, nobody's swinging at it, you have to get the fastball in the zone. So if I'm a hitter and like Blake Snell, for example, he's not landing that curveball. That's why Blake Snell is it's so specific with him. If he's landing the breaking ball, he's almost impossible to hit because he can't sit on something.
But if he's not, it's bombs away.
It's bombs away because all I have to do is sit on the fastball. And that's very similar. All those guys you named have those breaking balls that if they aren't landing, they got to throw a measly fastball down the middle at 94 that just gets hit to the freaking sun.
I don't think I ever shared this. ALDS game 1, Robbie Ray allowing that walk-off nuke to Yordan Alvarez. Obviously, I don't like Robbie Ray. Like, I don't think he's good. His vax status pisses me off. His tight pants piss me off. Like, everything about Robbie Ray kind of pisses me off. I've never been closer to a maniacal laugh than when Yordan Alvarez absolutely pulverized a baseball against Robbie Ray to end that game.
You're such a hater, and I love it. All right, let's
I'm
go.
such a hater.
Okay.
Just with him.
So this one is a quick one. I thought I noticed it, and I was like, they were on the same team. So the Kansas City Royals had both of the fastest throws in baseball from the outfield last season. Nate Eaton threw at 103.3 miles an hour, and Michael A. Taylor at 102.4 miles an hour. I found that interesting.
So I thought Morel was up there, and I thought
Yes.
Miles Straw was up there.
Both up there, not as fast as the peak of Nate Eaton and Michael A. Taylor, both on the same team.
Nate Eaton's a big man. Like, Nate Eaton's got some biceps and triceps.
But
so
Taylor
I can
isn't.
absolutely...
Taylor isn't. He's just a really great defensive center fielder with a hose.
Yeah, he's just a really good athlete. Obviously this is not healthy for anybody whatsoever, but I imagine a world where, All-Star weekend, with the festivities, you've got the home run derby and the softball game. Obviously, people look at the bunting contest in the KBO, or maybe that's Nippon Professional Baseball, that, they were like bunting to the targets on each side. I want a crow hop throw contest. And like a guy's UCL is going to go snap, I'm sure, or a guy's labrum is like his arm is going to disconnect from his body and it's going to keep flying. But I'm just thinking of a world where like we got Yoenis Cespedes matching up with like an older Vlad Guerrero or a young Yasiel Puig, you know what I mean? And those dudes are just like buzzers from dead center field to home plate.
Remember when Aaron Hicks hit that 105 miles an hour from left field?
Yeah, like I want to see Hicks versus like Aristides Aquino.
Yeah. Ronald Acuna Jr. is another guy that when his arm is on point, he has a missile. An absolute piss rocket of an arm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to see that shit. That's so cool.
Ronald Acuna Jr., the more I think about it, and that's why, we're coming out with our top 10s, like, from a tools perspective, he has as close to 80 grade across the board as anybody. He has one of the best arms I've ever seen in right field. He is one of the fastest players in the game. He can hit a ball 500 feet if you wanted to. His bat to ball, like he's a guy who can hit 300. What am I missing? Speed? What did I?
I mean, he's close to an 80 grade runner.
He's a great fielder in right field. Like he's as tooled out as anybody in baseball. And we forget because he was coming off a torn ACL and he was like above average.
Right.
On one leg.
Tatis is probably the most tooled out guy in baseball, but Acuna might be second.
But the thing is, yeah, but I would say that Acuna has just as much power as Tatis. I think you could say he's as fast. I would say the field tool is better for Acuna. I think Acuna has a stronger arm. And the bat to ball
I don't have the
is
measurements in front of me with Tatis, but Tatis is just like, obviously Acuna is from another planet as well, but Tatis, I'm like, you are actually from Mars. Like you're insane.
Those two guys, like those two are as tooled out. Like Buxton is in that.
O'Neal as well.
O'Neal is in that. These freak shows of athletes. And Ellie De La Cruz is going to come up with the Reds and be in that discussion. So I just cannot wait to see him play.
Yeah, dude. It's like, who are you? I mean, all these guys are like Bo Jackson reincarnate.
Also, are we assholes? Because I wanted to bring up Royals point, and also on my end, I immediately switched to a cooler player. Like we didn't really talk about Nate Eaton or Michael A. Taylor. We're just like, yeah, but Ronald Acuna Jr. if he wanted to could be in the conversation.
No. I'm sitting here. I'm ready. Like, tell me about Nate Eaton.
I want 5
minutes
about
on
the
Nate
Royals
Eaton right now.
Dude, I barely know anything about him. All that he has a good arm. What an arm!
He's got a great arm. Nate Eaton, former Omaha Storm chaser. Yeah, naturally he came through the AAA team. Yeah, I mean, there's like nothing much to say about the Kansas City Royals because they're the Kansas City Royals and they've shot themselves in the foot with that. So, I mean, it's not our fault.
Great stadium. I always thought Kauffman was a great stadium. Great colors. Bobby Witt Jr.
That waterfall is sick. Bobby Witt has like, so he's the youngest guy I've ever seen pull off a goatee effectively.
Wow. Good point.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Nobody that young should be pulling off a goatee.
Yeah, he should shave it, but if he didn't, I wouldn't mind it because he's pulling it off.
Like it's not the end of the world. If he's trying to pick a girl up at a bar, I understand why the girl says no because like it kind of looks gross, but also it's not terrible.
If I'm the girl, I'm not saying no. Let's be real. You know that scene of The Office. Bobby Witt is. You know the scene of The Office where Michael and I'm forgetting his character name. The guy with anger issues.
Dwight?
No, not Dwight.
Kevin?
No, not Kevin. He comes from Cornell. Andy.
I didn't really watch the show. I'm sorry, guys.
It's a great show. So, or maybe it's not Michael and Andy, but it's a variation of characters in The Office. They're like, if Brad Pitt approaches you at a beach cabana and he leans in, are you leaning in? They were like, yes.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm leaning in.
I think so.
I feel the same with Bobby Witt Jr., even with the goatee.
Damn. Okay. I'm saying no with the goatee. Probably yes without the goatee. All right.
We'll move on to this just baseball show. Here it is. 4 days.
We're just trying to find shit to talk about, man. All right. There were 25 qualified hitters this past year that had an OPS under 700. If that feels like a lot, it's because it was. That was nearly double 13 that stayed under 700 in 2021. And in 2019, there were 7 qualified hitters with an OPS under 700. So there were more bad hitters that played all the time in Major League Baseball this year than in either of the last 2 full seasons. And I found that fascinating.
Just shoveling out more shit than usual.
I guess like
this was the year of the pitcher though, because the 707 OPS was Major League average. So it does sort of make sense that more guys would struggle this year with the perceived deadened baseball.
The other thing that makes some sense is like the pedigree of guys that were so bad. You know what I mean? Like you can't move off these guys because chances are if a guy has an OPS, in the 600s, you're looking for a change. But these guys are so good at something, or they have such a nice track record that teams are reluctant to move off of them. So like Miles Straw, he's so good defensively, you're not going to move off of him, right? Trent Grisham, there was no better option for San Diego. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, there was no better option for the Yankees, right? Jorge Mateo was a Gold Glove candidate. Yuli Gurriel, there was no better option. Nelson Cruz, Cody Bellinger, Javi Baez, Whit Merrifield, J.P. Crawford, Josh Donaldson, Tommy Pham, Jesse Winker, Nick Castellanos. I mean, like, these are all names that have built this reputation for themselves that they can absolutely go through a bad year and they're not going to get it bats taken away from them. And then Ke'Bryan Hayes, again, a platinum glove caliber defender, you're not going to move off of him.
A lot of new guys, too, in new situations that you named, too. New teams. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe they bounce back. Maybe they don't.
Right.
That's what
Miguel Rojas, might I just say, 605 OPS.
Yeah. He can pick it, though.
New Dodger shortstop, Miguel Rojas.
All right. My next one. So the clutch stat. Fangraphs has a stat that basically measures how well a player performed in high leverage situations. But it takes into account, like, it's comparing you against yourself. So a guy who hits 275 during the regular season, but then hits 275 during the playoffs isn't considered clutch. You're just doing what you were doing. It may feel better because it's in a high leverage situation. It feels more clutch, but a player, this stat measures how much better you were than yourself in the regular season in high leverage situations. And it's not always the playoffs. It takes win probability added. So let's say you're down 2 runs and you hit a double that scores 3 to end up winning the game. That'll affect the win probability added because that play in and of itself, what created the winning situation, right? Like, that's what won the game. So your win probability added goes up. But if I hit a 3-run double down 6-0, it's not going to affect the win probability added as much. So we understand where that's coming in from. But I thought it was too easy to just list the top 5 in the clutch stat. Like, you can go find that on Fangraphs. It's a pretty awesome stat. Like, Wilmer Flores, compared to himself, was the most clutch player in Major League Baseball last year. But I wanted to find the 5 hitters who had at least a 120 WRC plus. So they were at least 20% above average. So they were already really good hitters. But when the lights were shining and the team needed them the most, these were the 5 clutchest players, according to that stat, with the caveat of a 120 WRC plus. Do you want to guess who number 1 is? American League Central.
AL Central. Was it Correa?
It was not Correa. It was on the Guardians.
Was it J-Ram?
Andres Jimenez was the most clutch player in Major League Baseball last year by the clutch stat with at least a 120 WRC plus. Number 2, Kyle Tucker. Number 3, Brandon Drury. I was like, is Drury on this list? And I looked up 123 WRC plus last year. Manny Machado, number 4. And then number 5, Starling Marte. So that's your 5. Andres Jimenez, Kyle Tucker, Brandon Drury, Manny Machado, and Starling Marte. Compared against themselves when the lights were shining, they delivered. Congrats, everybody.
Interesting. All right. I've got one more. I know you've got one more as well. So it's Peter flanking each side, and I'm filling in the cracks here. My last one has to do with TV ratings, and these numbers are from Bill Shea at The Athletic. He wrote it after Judge hit his 62nd homer, and he was looking at Yes Network ratings. And I thought that there were some really interesting overall numbers when it comes to baseball viewership regionally. Like, obviously, national telecast, World Series, it's going to average how many million viewers, and it's still going to be a little bit lower than like your classic 425 on Fox NFL game, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Regional TV is where teams feel it, right? Because the Yankees paid billions of dollars for control of the Yes Network, right? And you've got the Cubs with Marquee, and you've got all these NBC Sports branches, and you've got all these Bally branches and things like that. So Yes Network this past season averaged 368,000 viewers in the New York market over their 126 televised games that Yes did this year. 126 to the 162. You've got national TV, things like that, where Yes is not broadcasting the game. That was Yes's best audience since 2011. Now, Yes certainly got a boost because of the Aaron Judge thing, right? And everybody's watching history. Those games are, whatever. Yes Network had a 2.9 household rating this past year, which ranked 9th in Major League Baseball. And household rating means the percentage of households in your market, in your TV universe, that are tuned into that. So of the TV sets in the tri-state area or in the New York market, 2.9% of those TV sets were tuned into a Yankee game when the Yankees were on. The highest household rating, the St. Louis Cardinals. Of the TV sets in the St. Louis market, 7% of those were tuned into Cardinal games.
That's fire.
Cardinal fans fucking love their Cardinals, and they're watching the Cardinals when they're on.
That was a good
I find
one.
TV numbers fascinating. I find them fascinating.
That was a good one. I didn't even know where you were kind of going with it. That's a good one.
Yeah. So I figured that would be a good glimpse into, because you're probably wondering, like, how many people are watching a baseball game. Like, I know that obviously being in TV, being in media, I'm fascinated by TV ratings, but I know that a lot of other people that are not near it whatsoever are still fascinated by TV ratings. It's like, oh, I'm watching a White Sox game on a typical Tuesday night. How many people are watching? I think in 2020, the answer was around 100,000 at any given moment. The Yankees, if you're watching a Yankee game on Yes, you and about 368,000 of your closest friends are watching at any given moment. And when you think, all right, how many people in the New York area are watching? Of the people that are watching TV, about 3% of those TVs are tuned into the Yankee game.
I would think it'd be much higher. Surprising.
I don't know, man. Like, think about, so football, obviously the household rating is higher, right? Because there's only one game on a week and you almost make it part of your schedule. But with the Yankees, like, it's on every night. You know what I mean?
But it's
Baseball's
in the same, I agree, but it's in a period where there's not really any other sports going on, right? The NBA starts later. The NFL is done by then. College basketball is done by then. College football is done by then. There's some overlap, I think, with hockey. Forgive me if I'm wrong, because I don't watch hockey and I don't know. But normally there's this dead range. But at the same time, it is during the summer months where you're the least likely to be watching TV anyway. But correct. I do feel like it'd be higher for the Yankees, where the Yankees are the best team in New York, because New York sports fans, the Giants made a nice playoff run here. The Jets didn't make the playoffs, choked again. The Knicks, my Knicks, are freaking, actually, the Knicks are very good, but I'm biased and an idiot, and they're not very
Brunson's
good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Rangers and Islanders, couldn't tell you. The Nets are good this year, but again, there's no overlap. But the Nets historically haven't been very good. I would think that more New York sports fans are turning on Yankee games than 2.9%.
So the NBA and the NHL run through June. But I think that's a really important point that you make in regards to if people are watching their TV in the summertime. Like, what are you doing summertime in Manhattan? It's a nice night. Are you watching the Yankee game?
Yeah.
I know you are, but
yeah, of course I am.
If a friend texts you on a Friday night and you're like, no, I want to watch the Yankee game, they're like, F you, we're going to the bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes. But more often than not, I'm watching the games. I love watching the games more than going to the bar. So it has to be a special occasion. I do.
Just acknowledge that you are an exception to the rule.
That's fine. That's fine by me.
Okay.
And also I'm wagering on most of them. So I'm much more inclined to, I want to see how the game does. And then that'll influence my next pick, because the bet's got to keep coming, Jack.
Yeah, but also, like, live event coverage is down. Ratings of live event coverage is down over the last couple of years. And that's a COVID change because everybody's streaming everything now. So, I just found those numbers really interesting.
The streaming numbers, of course, because I'm sure, like, does that take into account watching it on MLB.com or, the MLB streaming service? Maybe you get
that's TV households on the Yes Network. That's, Nielsen ratings and shit like that. So, yeah, I mean, and the other one that I saw, when you're curious about, like, streaming, I was thinking, okay, the gold standard of streams so far has been Thursday Night Football on Prime. And they peaked around 11 million people. 11 million people were streaming on Amazon Prime Live for a Thursday Night Football game. Really impressive that many people got Amazon Prime to watch football.
I bet a lot of them had them before, but I agree. Definitely, you got millions of people to download. I mean, that's why Bezos and company paid an incredible sum of money to watch Panthers-Texans on a Thursday, and yet people still tune in.
Yeah, because it's the NFL. NFL is king. What's your last one?
My last one is short, and I had to include it because every single time I look deeper into Shohei Ohtani stats, I think they're wild. Shohei Ohtani had the 5th fastest home to first time in 2022 in Major League Baseball. 5th. Shohei Ohtani had the 5th fastest home to first time in 2022. 5th, Jack. The 5th fastest.
Keep going.
The 5th fastest home
okay, you
to
can stop
first
now.
time.
You can stop. Yeah, I mean,
that's like if Tom Brady ran the fastest 40, the 5th fastest 40 in the NFL. Not really, but kind of.
Yeah, so I mean, this guy 90-foot splits. All right, here's Savant. No, that's not it. 90-foot splits. Ohtani, like when we talk about tooled out, when we talk about Acuna and Tatis and O'Neal Cruz,
yeah, Ohtani
is actually the most tooled out person.
He pitches and hits. Yeah,
right. He pitches and hits.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like when he hits, it's not like he is power and immobile or he's bat to ball with no juice. He's power and speed and everything in between. And then when he pitches, he's nasty breaking stuff and an 100-mile-an-hour fastball and command and everything in between. So he's like the most technically gifted human being on the face of the planet.
He might win the Cy Young while being a top 10 in speed.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. That's like if Patrick Mahomes ran a faster 40 than Isaiah Pacheco.
Dude,
that's crazier than Steve Cohen making $2.4 billion for his investors.
Here's the other thing. Home to first, there are only 2 guys in the top 10 that you can consider good. Garrett Mitchell, Corbin Carroll, Magneuris Sierra, Winton Bernard, Shohei Ohtani, Eli White, Akil Baddoo, Kevin Kiermaier, D. Strange Gordon, Jarren Durant.
Yeah, these are like pinch runner outfield extraordinaires.
Yes. 2 guys that you can consider good, and one of them is one of the best pitchers in the game.
Who hits 40 home runs.
Correct.
Dude.
5 slowest home to first times. Yasmani Grandal, Miguel Cabrera, Robinson Chirinos, Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina.
Imagine running slower than Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina.
Yeah, Robinson Chirinos, Miguel Cabrera, Yasmani Grandal.
Isn't Grandal like 34?
I think so.
Like, dude, Yachty and Pujols and Miguel Cabrera, these guys are 40. They're retired.
Dude, I just can't imagine running slower than Daniel Vogelbach. But congratulations to Tucker Barnhart, who did it.
What an idiot, Tucker.
Stupid doo-doo head.
Get off your heels.
Yeah, use the balls of your feet, Tucker.
So hopefully you all enjoyed this episode of the Just Baseball Show. As you can see, we are trying our hardest to give you as much baseball content to keep us and you going through the off season. We're going to keep saying it because it is true. We have top 10s coming, World Baseball Classic content coming. We've gotten a lot of messages of when we're going to drop World Baseball Classic stuff. Don't worry, it's coming. We just need the rosters to be finalized so we can have a better picture. And the World Baseball Classic doesn't start until March 8th, so we still have plenty of time. If you have been enjoying, we do appreciate if you give us a 5-star review on both Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you have been enjoying us on YouTube, thanks so much. Our YouTube has been growing, and we appreciate all the support from you all. If you could give us a like, comment any wacky, wild things that you remember from the 2022 season, as well as hit that subscribe button for more baseball content all off season long. And we're giving you 4 days a week of everything that we could think of during the off season. Imagine what we're going to do during the regular season. We're going to be humming just like we have. So much stuff coming, plenty of stuff happening on justbaseball.com. We have a ton of new podcasts that we've added to the network. Fantasy Baseball People, Just Fantasy Show, that is now out with Colby and Clay, both fantasy baseball writers, extraordinaires for Just Baseball. Aram and Jack are still killing it on the call up. Not gambling advice. We only have a couple of weeks left of the NFL season where Colby and I have been giving our picks coming off a sweep, but I am humble. Colby also did very well. The Show and Go podcast with Taylor Davis and our guy Jack McMullen. So many other podcasts on the Just Baseball Network. Go check those out to keep you going through the off season. Jack, anything else before we say goodbye?
Yeah. Franmil Reyes is faster than Colton Wong by sprint speed, and that's it.
And with that, thank you, everybody.